The shelter lights buzzed softly in the early hours before opening. Most kennels were quiet, their residents still dozing or pacing in the rhythm of routine. But in the back hallway, past the more adoptable dogs and cats, down a corridor most visitors never saw, sat a cage wrapped in a heavy tarp. Behind the fabric, barely illuminated by flickering fluorescent light, perched an aging parrot, feathers dulled with time, eyes weary from years of silence. This parrot had no name on the paperwork, just an intake number. A senior citizen of the animal world, the parrot had been surrendered when the last owner moved into assisted living. According to the staff, the parrot hadn't spoken in years. No chirps, no whistles, no sound, simply perching, breathing, existing. The notes read, unresponsive, unsocial, and finally, scheduled for euthanasia. The scheduled date was today. As the shelter staff began their routine, prepping medications, filling water bowls, checking logs, one new volunteer arrived early. A college student named Casey, quiet and observant, had been drawn to the shelter after losing a family bird just months before. While the other volunteers took to puppies or kittens, Casey wandered down the back hallway, following an odd feeling. Not panic, not urgency, just a quiet pull. Casey stopped in front of the tarp. A soft rustling came from behind it, so faint it was almost imagined. Slowly, gently, the tarp was lifted. Inside the cage stood the parrot, motionless, feathers slightly puffed against the morning chill. Eyes locked onto Casey's. No movement, no greeting, but something was there. A presence, a plea. Casey didn't speak, just crouched down, quietly watching. Seconds passed like minutes. The parrot blinked, tilted the head, and then it happened. Hello. One word, clear, fragile, with a voice cracked by time, but unmistakably filled with life. Casey froze, eyes wide, unsure if it had truly happened. But then, again, hello. Everything changed in that moment. A call was made to the director. The paperwork was pulled. The euthanasia was delayed. This parrot, once forgotten, now had a voice again, and it wasn't going unheard. Casey was granted permission to spend the entire day with the parrot. A name was chosen, Echo. Fitting, not just because of the sound, but because this bird had echoed through years of loneliness and found a way to reach out, even when everyone believed it was over. Echo was moved from isolation to a warmer sunlit corner of the office. The cage was cleaned, new perches added, fresh fruits and seeds placed inside. Casey read aloud from textbooks, played gentle music, and offered quiet conversation. Echo didn't speak again that day, but the eyes followed Casey everywhere. The days that followed were filled with cautious hope. Echo didn't like being touched, but tolerated gentle presence. Casey returned daily, bringing soft toys and foraging puzzles. Echo slowly began mimicking sounds again, not full words, but the beginnings of life returning. A phone ringing, a door creaking, a sigh. Then came the words, "Pretty bird, don't go, I'm here." Each phrase felt like a page from a hidden diary. Memories trapped behind feathers and silence. The shelter team, once numb to the sorrow of such cases, began stopping by Echo's cage just to say hello. And Echo responded more and more. The voice was still rough, but the will? Unbreakable. Echo's story reached social media after Casey posted a video of the parrot saying, "Don't go," in a trembling voice that broke every viewer's heart. Comments flooded in. People shared stories of childhood parrots, of family pets that lived decades, of birds that outlived generations. Donations arrived. Offers to adopt poured in, but Casey knew Echo wasn't ready yet. Not all wounds heal at the same speed. Weeks passed. Echo grew stronger. The feathers began to shine again. The eyes, once sunken with age and sadness, now sparkled with something much harder to describe. Awareness, hope, connection. Echo loved jazz music, the saxophone in particular. Whenever it played, Echo would sway slightly, a rhythmic dance that hinted at who this bird used to be. Echo also began laughing, a strange raspy chuckle that clearly mimicked a former owner's laughter. It was eerie, yes, but it was beautiful. Echo was coming back to life through sound. Then, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, Casey arrived with a new toy, a mirror, not one of those flimsy, dollar store pieces, but a real clear mirror set safely into the side of the cage. Echo stared into it for nearly 20 minutes. No movement, no sound, then whispered, "Where is she?" The shelter grew quiet that day. "Where is she?" The same phrase was repeated over and over. It became clear that Echo had once loved someone deeply, perhaps an elderly owner now long gone. That love had lived inside, buried under dust and silence, until a voice, a mirror, and a little time unearthed it. Casey did everything possible to honor that love. Photographs of older birds, caregivers, even familiar furniture styles were shown to Echo. Some prompted silence. Others prompted reactions. A teacup? A voice recording. Eventually, Echo seemed to settle, not with answers, but with presence. That's when Casey made the decision to adopt Echo. There were concerns, of course. Echo was still fragile, still deeply affected by years of loss, but the bond had grown too strong to deny. Paperwork was filled, preparations made, and 1 month to the day after Echo's original scheduled euthanasia, the parrot left the shelter, not in a medical carrier, but perched confidently on Casey's shoulder, a custom harness keeping things secure. At the new home, Echo had an entire room, a bird-safe space filled with sunlight, plants, toys, and a speaker system that played music on a timer. Mornings began with good morning calls. Evenings ended with soft songs and whispers of sweet dreams. Echo's vocabulary expanded. Words like thank you, safe, and Casey became regular parts of the day. But the most powerful word Echo learned again was love. Casey would often whisper, "I love you," before leaving the room, and one day Echo whispered it back. Not mimicry, not random. It was slow, intentional, and clear. "I love you." Casey wept. Echo's story continued to ripple outward. The shelter saw a spike in senior pet adoptions. People began asking for the forgotten ones, the quiet ones, the animals tucked in the back corners of cages. Volunteers returned. Donations surged. Echo became a symbol, not just of survival, but of the power of listening, of waiting, of refusing to look away, even when others have already given up. Now Echo spends days chattering away, sunbathing in a safe home, responding to Casey's calls with affection. The bond between the two has become legendary in the local community. Schools invite them to speak about empathy. Nursing homes play Echo's recordings for residents who had parrots of their own. And people who once thought parrots were just birds now see something deeper, something alive with emotion, memory, and soul. Echo was not just saved. Echo was heard. One word changed everything. Hello. And from that word grew a second chance, a found family, and a future brighter than anyone dared imagine.